Hello and welcome to Slow Night, Ancient Tales. Tonight's story comes from Korea's oral folklore tradition about a boy wrongfully condemned by a scheming stepmother who spends years in hiding before finally reclaiming his rightful place. It's a story of quiet endurance, unexpected kindness, and a long road home. Long ago, in a wealthy household, there lived a first wife and a second wife, each with a son of her own. But the master of the house had eyes only for his second wife, granting her every wish. The second wife wanted nothing more than to get rid of the first wife's son so that her own child alone would inherit everything. So she secretly visited shamans and fortune tellers, coaching them beforehand on exactly what to say. "When I fall ill," she told them, "just say that I can only be cured by eating a certain boy's liver." Then she took to her bed, pretending to be gravely sick. Worried, her husband sought out a fortune teller, one she had already coached, who told him exactly what she had planned. This illness can only be cured by the liver of a child. In the end, the husband was persuaded, and he agreed to let the first wife's son be killed. The household had a servant who had worked there for many years. The second wife called him aside and told him in secret, "Take the boy away and bring me back his liver, and I'll pay you whatever you ask." The servant agreed, took his payment, and began sharpening his knife. Watching him, the 7-year-old boy asked, "Why are you sharpening that knife?" The servant answered gruffly, "You die today." He led the boy up into the mountains, but in truth he had a different plan all along. He had brought a dog with him, and it was the dog he killed instead, taking its liver. Then he gave the boy a fine robe and some money, and said, "Go far from here. Don't come back until you've made something of yourself." The servant returned and presented the dog's liver to the second wife. But when it came time to actually eat it, just the sight of raw liver was enough. She claimed to already feel cured and never touched it at all. Meanwhile, the boy wandered from place to place until he came upon a village school. From inside, he could hear the voices of children reciting their lessons. Hungry and exhausted, he asked if he could tend the kitchen fire in exchange for food. The schoolmaster took a liking to him and let him stay. For 5 long years, the boy lived and slept only in the kitchen. People simply called him the kitchen boy. When he turned 16, he worked up the courage to approach the schoolmaster's eldest daughter and ask to borrow a comb. She scolded him for his nerve. The next day he tried the second daughter, who treated him just as coldly. Finally, he approached the youngest daughter, and she smiled and handed him the comb without hesitation. That night, the boy carefully groomed himself and went to see her. Once properly dressed and combed, he was clearly no ordinary kitchen boy. There was something unmistakably noble about him. The two of them stayed together, talking through the night. The next morning, when the sun was already high and the youngest daughter still hadn't woken, the household peered through a crack in the door and found a fine robe and unfamiliar belongings hanging inside. Everyone was startled, but no one could guess who it truly belonged to. Not long after, the boy solved a difficult passage at the school that no one else, not even the most advanced students, had been able to work out. Though he had claimed never to have studied, it turned out he possessed learning far beyond what anyone realized. He set off to take the state examination and passed at the very top of his class, eventually becoming a royal secret inspector. When he returned, the eldest and second daughters deeply regretted how they had once treated him. But his heart already belonged to the youngest daughter, who had shown him kindness when no one else would. The two of them traveled together back to his childhood home. As it happened, that very day was the second wife's birthday, and a grand celebration was underway. His birth mother, meanwhile, had fallen into poverty and now lived in that same household, reduced to running errands. Dressed plainly, the young man entered the celebration and no one recognized him. At last, he revealed who he truly was. "I am the boy who once left this house." His father was stunned. The second wife turned pale with fear on the spot. Though the young man could not bring himself to punish the father who had raised him, he could not simply overlook what had been done to him all those years ago. In the end, he brought his true mother back home, and the two of them lived out their remaining years together in peace. That's all for tonight's story. A boy wrongfully condemned who held his ground through years of hardship and finally reclaimed the truth. It's the kind of story that stays with you. Whatever difficulty you're facing today may one day become just such a story, quietly looked back on. Set your burdens down tonight and walk gently into sleep. Have a warm night. Sleep well.